So I am a registered Democrat. I've been a registered Democrat all my life.
From when she was born. I'm a registered Republican.
I identify myself as a Democrat.
And I'm a libertarian.
Democrat.
And I'm a Republican.
I vote Democratic.
I've always been a Republican.
If we talk about politics, it's an argument. So it depends on how often we talk about politics in any given, and
Obviously, election years, it gets to be more.
Right.
And then it usually settles down.
Yeah.
It is something I brought up about the third or fourth date.
Yeah.
I said, I'm a Republican and I know I'm not going to change.
I wouldn't consider them arguments, more as like debates.
Yeah.
A lot of times when main things come up and we want to discuss the different views, it's more of a debate over our beliefs on the topic.
I'd say it's more around
we
the
have
dinner
discussions.
table. We have discussions, and I'd say because this past election was so heated, we got into even more than usual.
Between us, we don't have big arguments over the subject matter. We may have different views, but we don't get heated with each other about our views.
Most of our social circles have mixed, have people from both.
Yeah, and with that, because most of them are mixed, it's usually things aren't brought up.
He has some friends that are uber conservative, and I have some friends that are the opposite extreme.
Sometimes it's important to talk with other people just so that you can hone your own ideas, so that you understand what the other position is, and either be prepared to counter it or say, hey, well, maybe I hadn't thought of it that way.
If I get in an environment where I know there's very serious, active, liberal people, I just don't talk about politics. I think that's the safest road to take.
Yeah.
And if other subjects come up, I think a lot of times I learn from them and they maybe get a little bit something out of my perspective.
The hardest thing for me is that we tend to try not to have a lot of political conversations because it doesn't always end well. The hardest thing for me is that our children haven't heard a natural discourse.
He's a hunter and he has some guns in the house, and I don't like that at all. And he, bought Spencer a pellet gun for Christmas one year, which flipped me out.
I watched multiple relationships fall apart, during this last election cycle.
Because you are surrounded by all the political commentary and all the voting propaganda and everything when it comes to political ads.
When you're really upset about something that you've heard on the news, you can't come home and vent, because obviously that's not going to end well. So or even if you come home and you're real excited about something you hear, it's the same. You can't come home and then gloat.
You need to have a little bit of debate in a relationship, because then you know that person has their own view. Because if you always went along with the same thing, somebody obviously is holding something back, and you don't want someone to hold something back in a relationship. You want to know that they're being honest.
But yeah, if you have two or three things where you're on opposing sides, you're not going to make it. I don't see how.
You can have different political ideals, but you can also we have a lot of things that are in common, like how we raise our children, what we figure, what our lifestyle is going to be.
There are lots of rewarding things about our relationship, but none of them. It's hard to find one that would involve politics.
I certainly get a full description of the other side, which is fine, because I listen to NPR on the radio, very liberal talk radio. They have great news. I don't necessarily agree with some of the people they have on there, but I get to hear both sides that way.
Yeah, we do have good discussions, I think, on what, why I don't necessarily feel that that's the best way to go in a particular area.
I want my kids to be educated and have their own point of views, and I love the schools they're at because they're exposed to a lot. and they do have their point of views, and I am proud of them for like having debates and knowing what they're talking about and being informed. I sit there and think, wow, I wish I was that informed sometimes.
The fact that we have different views, that it opens our eyes up to different viewpoints in general. I find a lot of times households that were raised like solely Republican or solely Democrat, the kid doesn't really, oh, well, that's how I was raised, so I probably feel the same way.
Just because mom thinks one way and dad thinks another should hopefully give him the idea that neither of us is necessarily right.
Give him more of the option to choose what he thinks and not so much of how he was raised.
I would say it shouldn't stop you from having a relationship with that person or from marrying that person.
Unless there's such extremism between the two parties, I think that it is something that can easily be worked out.
I think the only thing I have to say is we've been married for 25 years, and we're happily married.
Obviously, we've been married for 38 years, so we've done something right when it comes to politics.
When you go in a relationship with somebody who has slightly different views than you, you have to accept that there are certain things that's how they believe. And if you can't love them for their beliefs, then obviously it wasn't really meant to be. If you can accept their beliefs but still have conversations over it because you don't believe that same way and you still love them, then obviously that relationship is more important.